Hey guys, welcome to a few new shaders that I've created for CopperCube in HLSL. It's only for DirectX I've done it for, because that's the only thing I use. Alright, so here's a usable torchlight, which actually works pretty good on the whole, actually. It's very smooth. These are all post-processing shaders, and this one here, so it's the plain mesh in front of the camera with just post-processing effects. There's no depth, vertex or normal information whatsoever. It's just purely looking at the colors, and somehow it's worked out a way to brighten the center of the screen using code. This one here, it's just a fixed lighting, so there's actually no distance change in the lighting according to distance. That's its only weakness. Other than that, it's actually very good because it's really smooth, consistently smooth. I have a distance check version, but it's not as smooth. It changes a little bit abruptly. So if you're in an indoor location, I think this one is perfect. But I've got a setting so you can turn on and off the distance check if you want, and use the distance one. So if you're going from indoors to outdoors, you can go bright, and then it will detect how far away, and it will dim in distance. Otherwise, you're getting a bit of sky brightness, which you shouldn't really be doing. That's not how spotlights work in the sky. Unless it's super duper bright. Anyway, but this, the default one without any distance checks works well. And the distance checks, if you use it, it's just using collision point of world with line. So it does take a little bit more performance, but it's not too bad. So this one's quite good. I've limited the maximum brightness so that no lighting gets overblown up close, which is super important. Even the default CopperCube spotlight, the vertex-driven spotlight in the fixed function pipeline, that gets overblown when you're up really close. But anyway, I've limited the maximum brightness. Now this is using just the free version or default version. I've had to upgrade the render to texture API because it's giving artifacts. See those? Bit hard to tell, but they're there, artifacts. The darker it is, the more it'll stand out, these artifacts. See the change? It's like a lower quality texture image. Yeah, that's what it is. So I can turn it on and off. All these shaders can be turned on and off. And actually doesn't seem to affect the frame rate, which is interesting. The spotlight. So here's my debug version running my own compiled binary. This is using just the free version. You can use it the other way as well in the professional and just run it directly. So here's it's just the startup texture to show that and this is without the shader running. I'll press S to run the shader, and actually the frame rate goes higher actually, which is interesting, about 20% higher, which is pretty good. Now, if I put the torchlight on now, you'll see those artifacts are not there anymore. So that fixes the artifact problem. Had a default lower texture quality in the render to texture. Every frame it's creating a new render to texture image, and it's using the format was a bit low. I'll show you that now quickly. So in the source code, render to texture, I had to add this section in here. It was not in there at all, so that's a high upgraded version. That's like 64-bit texture versus I think 32-bit. Anyway, so it needed to have that get rid of those artifacts. So I fixed that up. And we've got lots of new shaders. Colored vignette. Before, instead of just black and white, which is a little bit boring, now you can change it to whatever color you want. Spotlight, double vision, chroma, which is chromatic aberration, emboss, distortion, and zoom. They're all pretty cool actually. I'll show you. Just going back to the spotlight, if you wanted to use a distance check, you can just turn that on to true, and that will activate a whole stack of it. Actually, at the moment it's using 2 collision point of world with line checks. It does take a bit of performance, one either side of the center of the screen to sort of detect left and right movements between long distance and far distance, like at a doorway looking out into the far distance. The idea is to try and balance the two. I've tried to take an average, end up being better to do an 80-20 split actually than 50-50. But anyway, it's not as smooth as what you were just saying before. You can try that if you want. It does work. It does turn off in the long distance. When you look up in the sky, it'll turn off. You won't show anything. Anyway, so let's have a look at some of these other shaders. So that's pretty cool. The torchlight's pretty nice. It has a ambient lighting adjusted intensity. So if you're going a day and night cycle or whatever, you're turning on the ambient lighting for whatever reason, on and off, it'll adjust the intensity of the spot automatically for you with this formula. And if you're changing the ambient level of whatever, say an indoor location, you want to make it darker than the outdoor, you can do that in CopperCube. This has the adjustment. You just have to manually put it in. It's generally a fixed thing. At the moment it's like 1, so but if it was like 50 out of, if you put 50, that's effectively 50 over 255, which would be 0.2, so you'd put 0.2 there instead. And that, what I'm talking about there is view derelict properties. So for the spaceship indoors, you can change, each material has its own, so that ambient setting there, you can change that. At the moment it's full brightness, 255, but you can reduce that so that when it's bright outdoors, it'll be darker indoors, and the according, it's like a percentage. Yeah, so you do that with all your textures. You can definitely do that, and that formula will update for it. And it works pretty well. It actually works quite well because it has a limitation on the maximum brightness, which is so important. Actually, it stops things getting overblown. So if you send through high spotlight intensity, it'll have it'll reduce the maximum brightness. So this one here, it's got taken the minimum of the spotlight brightness. Once you've added the spotlight to the scene, of that pixel, every pixel, it's checking for every single pixel. Would have normally been taken an average, but I've made that twice that, so instead of 0.333 or divide by 3, same thing. I've doubled that because it's upgrading the minimum brightness, so it's not too dark. In other words, so and keeps it between those two ranges. That seems to be a pretty nice figure I've worked out after a bit of mucking around. So the spotlight's totally usable. It's actually quite nice. It doesn't even take any performance really, and yeah, so you can use that. It's totally usable. So I start the shader, and then I activate whatever post-processing separately I want by myself. So vignette strength, you can change the color. So when I press P, that'll change the vignette strength. Everything by default that is able to be turned on and off is 0. Zero is off, and anything that's not 0 will be turned on. So this has got, so these are all your list of extra shaders here. Vignette strength, default, to turn on, the default value is about 0.5. You can go higher or lower, of course. Vignette size, change that. All these can be changed dynamically as it's running as well. And the vignette color, by default, I've just put it as green. So RGB, that's green. So those are your 3 things you can change there. So I'll show you that now. So it's off by default, but it's because it's an action. It probably put on a behavior, have it on all the time is probably better actually. This S, that just turns on the shader. Yeah, you can't limit the frame rate for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. I have to look at that. It goes up to about 200 anyway. So now if I press P to activate the vignette, there it is there. So it's a green color now. You can change it to whatever color you want. Intensity, okay, size, strength. Yeah, so let's change the intensity, just quickly show you that. So 0.25, half that. And there you go, half the strength, yeah. So it's all nicely done. You can always dynamically change it all as it's running. It's cool. You can turn it off as well. All my shaders that I've created, you can turn on and off. What's another one? So I'll put that as 0 now. No, I'll leave it at 0.5 and just comment it out so it won't run. Let's check the double vision. This is a cool one. Very nice. obviously, if you're running your game, you wouldn't comment things out. You would just simply change the number from 0 to the figure that you want. You could even fade it in and fade it out, and that's look good as well. But I'm just going to comment in and out for this purpose. Or, I could just show you, I guess, that does work. Just put it at 0. I'm trying to remember these numbers. I don't want to delete them just yet. All right. Double vision. Let's put the brightness back up. Put about 50, 45, 50. Alright, so if I run that, also the torchlight will be brightness adjusted according to the ambient lighting. So if I turn the torchlight on now, the intensity is much less than what it would have been had I not changed it according to the ambient lighting. Yeah, so anyway, that works. Now it's running. I press P to activate double vision. If you're like drinking alcohol or something, it could be something funny in your game. You want some sort of effect. This could work. Pretty funny, isn't it? It's like double vision. That's not bad. Now, one thing you got to mind, you got to update in your 3D plane mesh in front of the camera. There's something you have to update. So I can turn it off. Turn it off and on. You can change the amount, intensity, and a lot of things. Double vision. So I've just used a vector instead of 2 variables. I've just used one. So double vision.x is the strength of the effect, and the speed that it moves is the Y position, which is that one. Z is not used. It's not used for anything. So you can change that. Okay. So with the screen in front of the camera, you do need to update something. You need to go to airlick properties. So here's my default texture. That's a second texture that you can use in different shaders to warp into the first one actually, or into the main color of your screen, which is actually really cool. I'll show you that later. But what you need to do is change this to clamp to edge. Clamp to edge. By default, it's at clamp repeat. So for some reason it's doing most of the screen and then it repeats the edges and it doesn't look right. So just stick it clamp to edge. Yeah, I think clamp is similar. Can't remember, but this is the best one. Clamp to edge. Change them all to that, and then it will actually look proper that way. All right. So double vision.x, and you can change the speed. Let's just do that now quickly. I probably just should have two variables. Might be easier actually. Change it. Make it 50% faster. There you are, 1.5. Okay, so just activate that now. Yeah, so that's faster than before. Definitely faster. It might have been a little bit hard to tell, but it was faster. So if I go back down to 0.5, see, it's a lot slower now, so you can totally see. Yeah, there's occasionally a little bit of graphical stuff around the edges. I'm not sure why that is. Anyway, it's not too bad. Yeah, so you can dynamically change the speed, the amount, and intensity. That's pretty cool. I thought that was interesting. Here's another one I made. Well, I didn't make it, I just put it into CopperCube. Alright, so let's distort. This will distort the image based on the second texture. So that second texture now be used to distort the main image the camera is looking at. I'll show you that now, which is quite cool actually. So P, at the moment it's not dynamically moving by itself. I probably could change that to have a time adjusted figure and have it move by itself, but at the moment it's really waving when you're moving around for the most part, which is sort of interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I might change that so it basically does something like this the whole time. That would be cool. And of course you can change intensity like everything. double vision. You can only change the strength of it at the moment. So what else we got? I will be doing updates and improvements, so if you download the file from itch.io, I'll let you know when there's an update, and you can just get the improvements as I'll do it. So that's interesting. Zoom level, this is cool. This is a nice one. I'll show you this. So if you're moving fast, something that speeds up suddenly, this is actually really cool for that. You don't really see it indoors that much. It's a bit hard to see, but I'll go outdoors and show you. But otherwise, yeah, so it gives you sort of a speed up effect. It's a little bit hard to see with the indoor, but it really shows up like on a train system. So you can see here. Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it? So you could dynamically adjust the amount of it according to how fast you go and do like a turbo feature. That's quite cool. Very cool, actually. What do we got? So that has the zoom strength amount. Well, actually, there's two things you can change here. One is the strength, and the other one is the distance from center. You can adjust either one dynamically if you like. So that's pretty cool. Nice one. Emboss. This is an interesting one. If you want to add more detail to the textures without going through rebaking all the textures with null data and all sorts of things, well, you can always try this one. Okay, so activate it. So I'll show you. Okay, so emboss. So it gives extra detail to the texture, just like using GIMP or something in Photoshop to emboss a texture. This basically does the same thing. So activate that now. See that? I've limited it so it's not too intense, otherwise it stands out too much. I'll turn it off and back on. Off, on, off, on. Actually, it's like a sharpening and gives more detail. You could use lower quality textures and theoretically, and yeah, you get more detail out of it that way. It's interesting. You can effectively do the same thing with, like, yeah, pre-bake that information into the textures actually, but yeah, but it's pretty cool, isn't it? What about here? Off, on. See, it's more sharper image. Looks better actually. These are 1K textures, so you're basically increasing the sharpness of the textures and giving more detail to the surfaces a little bit. Of course, you can increase the intensity of it. If you go too far with it, it doesn't look very good. It looks a bit weird. Just, a little bit is good. It's quite cool. So there's the emboss with and without. Cool, huh? That's quite nice. So the emboss just has one setting, the strength. 0 is off. What else we got? And chromatic aberration. That's just the name of I just call it chroma. I like short variable names. That's me. Put that on. Turn it on with 1. And so we're looking at a scene. Turn it on. Now we've got a chromatic aberration, which is interesting, isn't it? You can change the intensity or turn it on and off. It's a bit black and white, this scene, this level by default, isn't it? A little bit too grey, blackish colours. Has a little bit of colour. But anyway, so you want some strange effect? Yeah, you can do that. It's quite cool. Yeah. Seems to change according to movement. So that's there. Oh no, I may be right. Just anyway, so yeah, it does work. That's on low intensity. You can upgrade the strength of it, of course. Yeah. Chroma just has the one setting, the strength. 0 is off. It's pretty nice. It's not a radial chromatic aberration. I mean, theoretically, that would maybe look a bit better. You like this, circular effect around the edges, not in the center. Yeah, it might be better. Spot intensity, well, we know that we did that. So that's the spotlight. yeah, so that's the couple of new shaders I've got, which are pretty cool, I thought. So I've put this based on Just In Case's screen shader. So yeah, so it's only for DirectX, and so you've got coloured vignette, spotlight, double vision, chroma, emboss, distort, and zoom. All pretty nice sort of shaders actually. Let me know if any one shader that's not here and you something you really want to see. If it's not ridiculously complicated, let me know. I might, if enough people ask for it, I'll put it in. Yeah, but otherwise the code's all there, and you can get this on Itch.io and get all my updated APIs as well, and you know, all the fixes and the terrain pathfinding and everything else. Yeah, it's pretty. It's fairly clean code. Trying to keep it as clean as possible. That only runs if you're using spot distance. There's quite a bit of code just for that. Yeah, and these are all you just global variables sending through to mainly to the pixel shader. Yeah, it works pretty good. Alright, I'll go back to doing my spotlight. I like the spotlight, it's cool. So if you've got a level like this that's a lot of grey, blacks and stuff, yeah, probably change the colour of the spotlight to like a blue, actually is better, or some other colour, and you can see it a little bit clearer. Even when it's bright during the daylight, you can still see it that it's on that way. It's cool, isn't it? Pretty nice. Yeah. So the next thing is to try and get this anti-aliasing to work, because see that far distance right down there, the table? See it waving in the distance? That's anti-aliasing trying to... It's not really anti-aliased properly at all. If you use MSAA, that works really well, but you can't use that with post-processing. And that's not just CopperCube, a lot of game engines have that problem. So it's either I've got to get it to work somehow or use a FXAA anti-aliasing shader, post-processing shader. Yeah, so that's what I need to get working next, or soon. Hopefully Nico can help me with that. He said he'll take a look, but yeah, not sure what will happen there, but let's hope something comes out of it. Yeah, so there it is, Spotlight, totally usable. It's actually pretty nice and smooth. So I'm not changing the intensity according to distance. It's actually very smooth when you do that. For indoors, like you're only in an indoor area, it works totally fine. If you're in an outdoor and indoor area, it's a little weird. You might want to change the textures or have a long distance check. So if you are looking at something very far away, then it makes the adjustment. Otherwise it doesn't. That'll probably work. That'll be the best of both worlds. Anyway, hope you like that, and let me know what you think. Cheers.